Hi, my name is Monique Hall. I'm a 50-year-old mother to a 13-year-old and a wife to a wonderful husband named Chris. My son's name is Grayson. Um, I am launching this YouTube channel um, kind of as a favor to my best friend who recommended that I share my story with people, whether it's an individual that went through a similar experience as she did, and as we talked about it, felt that it would be really important for possibly helping others, whether it was an individual directly or um, loved ones that are trying to cope with someone that they care about having gone through an experience like ours. Um, my experience began in the early hours of January 22nd, 2020. I died. I died not once, not twice, but 3 times after suffering successive heart attacks. The night that it happened, or the morning rather, it was preceded by a very stressful, hectic day, which was just my lifestyle at the time. I got up very early, as I always did, got myself ready, helped get my son ready. As my husband went off to his work, I took Grayson to school. I flew into my work and started my day there. It just started with a credit union that I really wanted to be a part of. So I was feeling really satisfied and really hopeful for um, making a career out of this employment. Uh, it was going good. It went so well, in fact, that my manager um, approached me with the opportunity for more hours, and I hoped I could handle the added responsibility, stress, pressure, and everything else, and but opportunity as well. I talked about it with my husband, and we thought at the time, it's just part of that sacrifice you make to, you know, obtain good tenure with the company. Um, so I was going to go for it. I believe I actually responded to the email request, affirming that I would take on the extra hours, even though the little voice inside my head was saying, "Are you really sure?" But I had just come off of some very unstable employment, so I thought it was the right thing to do. And I also thought at the time, even though I carried so many different responsibilities, that the Lord wouldn't put it before me if I couldn't handle it. I think His message was something quite different because of what happened. I came home from work, actually, I left work, picked up Grayson from his friend's house. We have wonderful friends, and he was staying with his best friend until I got off work. Picked him up, went to our home. Chris had meetings that night, so it was just Grayson and I for the majority of the evening. We went through our routine like we normally did, and I ate out of necessity more than, more than doing like a nice meal. I fed Grayson a nutritious meal, but mine was a little bit less than such. And I snacked on jalapeno kettle chips. I had a craving for them. And I'm like, I knew what it was going to do. I was expecting heartburn, which I got, and I was taking antacids for it, excuse me, and it just never went away this time. We got to bed, and I sat up in bed because that's just what people in my family do when they have heartburn or an upset stomach. So I sat up in bed and slept while Grayson slept, and we waited for Chris to come home. He came home. We were all in bed. I'm still sitting up, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I just laid down for a little while, and if I felt drowsy, I was going to sit up, I guess. But the feeling that came next was nothing that I would have expected. I felt nauseous and proceeded to, vomit profusely. That also got complicated with diarrhea. But prior to that, I checked my blood glucose levels. I didn't mention that I'm a type 1 diabetic and have been for the past 45 years. So it was very second nature for me to check my blood sugars to rule out a condition called diabetic ketoacidosis. That is when the blood glucose levels are so high where the blood becomes acidic, and it involves a hospital stay. It's something that I've experienced a number of times in my life, and a number of times just being married to Chris. So once he saw that my sugars were a little bit elevated, but not like full-blown high where I should have been worried about DKA, he asked me if I thought I should go to the hospital, and I was always trained to say yes, because once vomiting becomes a symptom, if I'm not full-blown DKA, I could have been on my way. Thank goodness, my instinct told me yes. So he went and got the car, helped me in the car, well, Grayson and he. In that 10-minute ride that it took for us to get from our house to the ER, I had lost the ability to walk under my own power. So I requested a wheelchair. They wheeled me to the ER, and I was whisked into the treatment room. They were running tests, going through their protocols and procedures, and I was given morphine, I believe twice, and they could not give me any more, even though it didn't appear to affect the pain that I was experiencing at all. It literally felt like someone had punched their fist into my chest and was trying to pull my heart out. The pain was just, it was more than intense, and I think it was difficult for me to breathe at that time, but I just remember the pain mostly. One of the tests they performed was an EKG, of course. The first one came back negative. So that left them unsure as to what my symptoms were from. I think some of the nurses may have thought that it was complications from an overdose. Chris told me after the fact, and I was like, wow, you just have not met me, have you? And that really stuck with me and offended me, and it still bothers me to this day. But before they had an opportunity to speculate down that road, the doctor ran back in after doing a second EKG, and he looked at me straight in my face and told me that I was having a heart attack. I was in disbelief. I said, what? And I only had time to look over at Grayson, then at Chris. I said, honey, I'm scared. And that is all I remember. The next video, I will, go by secondhand accounts of what happened, based on what my husband and Grayson has told me since I wasn't here. Uh, so until then, thank you, and I really hope that what I'm sharing will help you. Bye bye.